The signal arrived on a Tuesday. It was faint, almost lost in the cosmic background noise that washed over Earth's deep space. Monitoring station on Karen. Dr. Alan Hayes had been reviewing the daily data reports when the pattern caught his eye. At first, he thought it was a glitch in the system. But after running 3 separate diagnostics, the truth became clear. The signal was real. Alan pushed his coffee mug aside and leaned closer to his screen. "Nancy, come look at this," he called. To his colleague, who was organizing samples across the room, Dr. Nancy Fuller abandoned her work and crossed the room. She was the station's senior analyst, with 20 years of experience studying cosmic anomalies. "What am I looking at?" she asked, adjusting her glasses. "It repeats every 107 seconds. Too precise to be natural." Alan pointed to the pattern displayed on his monitor. "And look at this sequence. Prime numbers, followed by what could be coordinates." Nancy's eyes widened. "Have you told Director Perkins?" "Not yet. I wanted to be sure." The 2 scientists worked through the night, analyzing the signal from every angle. By morning, their excitement had grown to near certainty. This wasn't random cosmic noise. It wasn't a pulsar or quasar or any known natural phenomenon. The mathematical precision was undeniable. "This is it," Alan whispered as the sun rose over Pluto's distant horizon. First contact. Within hours, the station was buzzing with activity. Scientists from every department gathered in the main conference room as Director Jack Perkins established a direct link to United Nations Space Command headquarters on Earth. The signal contains several distinct patterns, Alan explained to the room full of officials on the video screen. First, a mathematical sequence that can only be artificial. Second, what we believe are spatial coordinates. And third, this. He played an audio conversion of the signal. The sound was haunting, rising and falling tones that seemed almost like a song, or perhaps a cry. "We believe it's a distress call," Nancy added. "The repetition and intensity suggest urgency." Admiral Diane Moore, head of the UNSC, leaned forward on the screen. "You're certain this is extraterrestrial in origin? Not some forgotten satellite or deep space probe?" "Absolutely certain," Director Perkins replied. "The signal is coming from 17 light years away. Nothing human-made has ever gone that far." For 6 weeks, the brightest minds on Earth worked to decode the message. Linguists, mathematicians, and computer scientists collaborated across continents. Gradually, the signal gave up its secrets. The message was from a species that called themselves the Lorani. They were peaceful explorers who had established colonies in several star systems. But now they were being hunted by a predatory race known as the Vex, systematically attacked, their outposts destroyed one by one. "They're asking for help," explained Dr. Ben Rivera, the linguist who had made the breakthrough. "They've sent this message to every direction of space, hoping someone would answer." The United Nations Security Council called an emergency session. Representatives from every nation gathered to debate humanity's response. "We should remain silent," argued the Chinese delegate. "If these Vex are as dangerous as the message suggests, drawing their attention to Earth would be suicide." "But we can't ignore a cry for help," countered the Kenyan representative. "What does it say about us as a species if we hide when others are in danger?" The debate raged for days. Military advisors warned of the risks. Scientists spoke of the opportunity for advancement. Philosophers questioned the moral implications of inaction. In the end, it was Captain Olivia Martinez who changed minds. As commander of the UES Horizon, Earth's first faster-than-light vessel, she had been invited to offer her perspective. "I've spent my career exploring our solar system," she told the assembly. "I've always believed we would one day find others among the stars. But I never imagined our first contact would be hearing a cry for help. She paused, looking around the room. If we ignore this call, if we hide in fear, then we're no better than these aggressors. Humanity has always been at its best when extending a hand to those in need. Her words resonated with many in the room. After another day of deliberation, the vote was cast. Earth would answer the call. The decision wasn't without controversy. Protests erupted in several cities, with signs declaring Earth first and don't risk our future. But preparations moved forward. Earth's newly completed battle fleet built as a precaution after the discovery of faster-than-light travel would be dispatched to the coordinates provided in the Lorani message. 7 ships made up the rescue fleet. The massive dreadnought Hughes Defender would serve as command vessel under Admiral Frank Russell, a veteran of the Martian crisis. The cruisers Hughes Indomitable and UES Valiant would provide firepower. 3 destroyer-class ships, Swift, Vigilant, and Dauntless, would handle reconnaissance and fast response. And the Horizon, under Captain Martinez, would lead the diplomatic efforts. On the day of departure, millions watched the live stream as the fleet assembled in high Earth orbit. News anchors spoke in hushed tones about the historic moment. Religious leaders offered prayers. Scientists explained the principles of the Shaw Fujikawa drive that would carry the ships faster than light. Admiral Russell addressed the crew from the bridge of the Defender. His weathered face filled screens across the solar system. Men and women of the United Earth Fleet, today we embark on the most important mission in human history. We go not to conquer, not to colonize, but to help. We don't know what we'll find when we reach the Lorani. We don't know the full extent of the threat they face. But we know this. Somewhere in the darkness of space, someone called for help, and humanity has answered. The fleet departed with a flash of blue light as each ship activated its FTL drive, vanishing from the solar system. Earth held its collective breath, waiting for news. 17 days later, the fleet arrived at the coordinates. The ships emerged from FTL to find a solar system much like Earth's own. But the scene before them was one of devastation. A blue-green world hung in space, its orbit littered with debris from destroyed stations and vessels. And surrounding it, predatory ships with sharp, angular designs circled like vultures. Battle stations, Admiral Russell ordered as the first. Enemy vessels turned toward the human fleet. Let's show these Vex what happens when they pick on someone who can fight back. The rescue mission had begun. The bridge of the UES Defender hummed with tension as the enemy ships turned toward the human fleet. Admiral Frank Russell stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his face a mask of calm despite the danger. 7 Vex warships approaching. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Zoe Phillips from the tactical station, "they're forming an attack pattern." "Deploy fighters," Russell ordered. "Have the Vigilant and Swift move to flanking positions. Weapons hot, but hold fire until my command." As crew members rushed to carry out his orders, the Admiral turned to his communications officer. "Any response to our hails?" "Nothing yet, sir," replied Officer Greg Mills. "Wait, we're getting something. But it's not from the Vex. The signal is coming from the planet's surface." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a face that made several crew members gasp. The being had large, luminous eyes that took up nearly half its face. Its skin was pale blue, with faint patterns that seemed to pulse with light. When it spoke, its mouth barely moved, but its words came through clearly in the translator. "Human vessels, this is Xylith of the Lorani Collective. You have answered our call. We did not think anyone would come." Admiral Russell stepped forward. "I am Admiral Frank Russell of the United Earth Fleet. We received your distress signal and are here to render assistance." "The Vex will attack you," Xylith warned. "They show no mercy to any species they deem inferior." "Let them try," Russell replied. His words were barely out of his mouth when the first Vex ship opened fire. Energy beams lanced across space toward the defender, but the massive ship's shields held. The human fleet's response was immediate. Fighter squadrons poured from the carriers, and the destroyers moved with surprising speed to engage the Vex vessels. Lieutenant Chris Warren led Alpha Squadron, 12 of Earth's best pilots in the newest Raptor-class fighters. "Form up on me," he ordered as they cleared the launch bay. "Target the lid ship's weapon systems." The human fighters were smaller and less advanced than the Vex ships, but they moved with an agility that seemed to confuse the enemy. The Vex weapons were powerful, but slow to track the nimble Earth vessels. "They didn't expect us to be so fast," Chris observed as his squadron executed a complex maneuver that scattered the Vex targeting systems. "Hit them while they're recalibrating." The Raptors fired in unison, their missiles striking the lead Vex ship's main weapons array. The explosion rippled along the alien vessel's hull dot back on the defender. Admiral Russell watched the battle unfold with growing confidence. The Vex had technology beyond Earth's, but their tactics were predictable, almost formulaic. They clearly weren't used to enemies who fought back effectively. "Sir," called Officer Mills, "Captain Martinez from the Horizon is requesting permission to approach the planet for evacuation operations." "Granted," Russell replied. "Give her destroyer escort. We'll keep the main Vex force occupied." As the battle raged in orbit, Captain Olivia Martinez guided the Horizon toward the Lorani colony. The ship's sensors showed thousands of life signs clustered in underwater cities around the planet's oceans. "Their main settlement appears to be under attack," reported her science officer, Dr. Howard Kim. "Vex ground forces have breached the outer defenses." Olivia's jaw tightened. "Prepare landing craft. I want a security team ready in 5 minutes." The Horizon broke atmosphere, its hull glowing red-hot from the friction. Below, the planet's surface was mostly ocean, with small islands dotting the blue expanse. The largest island hosted a sprawling structure that extended into the water. Lorani Colony Hub. Vex landing craft surrounded it, deploying troops that looked like armored insects. 30 minutes later, Olivia stood on the alien soil, breathing through a filter as her team secured a landing zone. The air was breathable, but heavy with moisture that made her uniform cling to her skin. The gravity was slightly less than Earth's, giving each step a subtle bounce. A group of Lorani emerged from their structure to meet the humans. Up close, they were even more striking slender beings that stood a head shorter than the average human, with delicate limbs and those haunting, large eyes. What had appeared to be patterns on their skin were actually tiny bioluminescent spots that shifted with their emotions. "You came to the surface," said one Lorani, stepping forward. "The Vex never do this. They send only machines to our world." "We're not the Vex," Olivia replied. "I'm Captain Martinez. We're here to help evacuate your people." "I am Elder Seleth," the Lorani introduced himself. "But evacuation is impossible. There are too many of us, and the Vex block all orbital paths." A sudden explosion shook the ground. Seleth flinched, but Olivia barely reacted. "Those are our destroyers clearing a path," she explained. "And we have more ships coming. But first, we need to protect this colony." She nodded to her security team, who began setting up defense perimeters with energy barriers and automated turrets. The Lorani watched in fascination. "Your people move so quickly," Seleth observed, "and you show no fear of the Vex." "Should we be afraid?" asked Sergeant Joe Foster, checking his weapon. The question seemed to puzzle Seleth. "The Vex are apex predators. They evolved on a world of death and violence. No other known species can match their natural aggression or physical resilience." The humans exchanged glances, and Joe laughed. "Elder Seleth, you haven't seen Earth." As if to emphasize his point, a group of Vex troops rounded a nearby structure. They were tall, muscular beings with gray-green skin and natural armor plating. Their faces had multiple eyes and mandibles that clicked menacingly. "Take cover!" Olivia shouted, pushing Selith behind a barrier. The human security team didn't hesitate. They moved with practiced efficiency, firing advanced pulse weapons that tore through the Vex armor. Sergeant Foster charged directly at one Vex warrior, dodging its energy weapon before tackling it to the ground. Despite the alien's size advantage, Joe's combat training proved superior. He disabled the creature with precise strikes to vulnerable. Joints dot within minutes, the Vex attackers lay defeated. The Larani emerged from cover, staring at the humans with new understanding. "Impossible," whispered Selith. "You fought them in direct combat. No species does this and survives." Olivia helped the elder to his feet. "Where we come from, we have a saying. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog." Selith's bioluminescent spots pulsed with what might have been confusion. "I do not understand this dog, but I understand that we have greatly underestimated your kind." "Everyone does," Olivia replied with a slight smile. "Now, let's get your people to safety." Above them, the battle in orbit had turned decisively in humanity's favor. The Vex, facing resistance unlike anything they had encountered before, began to withdraw their forces. They hadn't expected these newcomers, these humans, to fight with such ferocity and skill. What the Vex didn't yet realize was that humanity was just getting started. 3 days after the first battle, the human fleet had established a defensive perimeter around the Larani colony world. The Vex forces had retreated to the edge of the system, but everyone knew they would return. Admiral Russell used the time to strengthen their position and learn more about both their new allies and their enemy. On the planet's surface, a temporary base had been set up near the main Larani settlement. Chief Engineer Samantha Collins supervised a team installing shield generators that would protect against orbital bombardment. The Larani watched the humans work with a mixture of curiosity and disbelief. "You are not wearing environmental suits," observed a Larani scientist named Telith. "Our atmosphere contains nitrogen levels that should be toxic to most life forms." Sam wiped sweat from her forehead and smiled. "It's a bit thick for our taste, but we can handle it. Earth's atmosphere has plenty of nitrogen, too." "Earth must be a terrible place," Telith said, his light patterns showing concern. "It's home," Sam replied, tightening a connection on the generator. "Sure, we have deserts and Arctic regions and stormy oceans, but we also have forests and meadows and beautiful sunsets." Telith's patterns flashed with what might have been disbelief. "The Vex said they are the only intelligent life to evolve on a death world. Yet you speak of your planet with love." "Death world?" Sam paused her work. "What exactly does that mean?" "Planets are classified by habitability," Telith explained. Class 1 worlds like ours have stable climates, low gravity, and few environmental hazards. The Vex homeworld is Class 5 extreme temperature variations, high gravity, toxic compounds in the atmosphere, and aggressive life forms everywhere. "And Earth?" Telith hesitated. "From what our scans show of your biology and what you've told us about your planet, ... Earth would be considered Class 5. Sam laughed. No wonder the Vex were surprised. They thought they were the only tough guys in the galaxy. Meanwhile, aboard the UES Defender, Admiral Russell met with the Larani ambassador Xylith and Captain Martinez. They gathered around a holographic display showing the solar system and the position of all known ships. "Our scouts report at least 20 Vex warships gathering at the system's edge," Russell explained. "They're calling for reinforcements." Xyliths. Bioluminescent patterns dimmed with worry. The Vex control vast territories. They could bring hundreds of ships. "Then we need to hit them before their fleet grows too large," Martinez suggested. "A preemptive strike on their command ships." "Such aggression," Sylith marveled. No wonder they fear you. Russell raised an eyebrow. The Vex fear us? They outnumber and outgun us. Yet they retreat and regroup rather than press their advantage. Sylith pointed out. This is not their way. The Vex typically overwhelm with superior numbers and firepower. But against your ships, they show caution. Because we hurt them, Martinez said. Our first engagement proved we can fight back effectively. It is more than that, Sylith insisted. The Vex have sent a transmission to their high command. Our sensors intercepted it. They call you Deathworlders, a term they previously used only for themselves. They believe you may be their evolutionary equals. This new information changed their planning. If the Vex truly feared humans, perhaps this advantage could be pressed. Russell ordered his intelligence officer, Lisa Griffin, to prepare a special transmission to be broadcast on all frequencies the Vex were known to use. The next day, as the Vex fleet began to advance, they received the human message. On the bridge of the Vex command ship, War Leader Kraz watched the human admiral with his 4 eyes narrowed. This is Admiral Frank Russell of the United Earth Fleet, the message began. We have encountered your forces and found them wanting. The Lorani are now under our protection. Any further aggression against them will be met with the full might of humanity. The message continued with details about Earth, its gravity, atmospheric composition, and the predators humans had evolved. Alongside, it described how humans had fought each other for thousands of years, perfecting the art of warfare in ways the Vex could not imagine. We were born in environments you cannot survive, Russell's message concluded. We evolved fighting predators. You cannot imagine. We are not the ones who should be afraid. War Leader Kraz crushed the viewing device in his clawed hand. Deception, he snarled to his officers. No species could evolve intelligence in such conditions. The scans confirm their biology, War Leader, his science officer replied nervously. Their muscle density, bone structure, and neural pathways are consistent with evolution on a high-gravity world with multiple apex predators. Then we will test these humans, Kraz decided. Prepare the boarding parties. Let us see how they fight when faced with Vex warriors in close combat. On the colony planet, Marine Sergeant Kyle Peterson trained a group of Lorani volunteers in basic defensive tactics. The aliens were physically weaker than humans, but they learned quickly. Keep your distance from a Vex warrior, Kyle advised, demonstrating with a holographic enemy. Use ranged weapons when possible. If they get close, aim for the joints in their natural armor. A young Lorani named Neri asked, How do your people fight so effectively? We have never seen beings move as you do. Kyle considered the question. On Earth, humans aren't the strongest or fastest animals. We evolved using our brains, working in teams, and never giving up. Most importantly, we learned to protect each other. Their training session was interrupted by an alert. Vex dropships had been detected entering the atmosphere. Battle stations, Kyle ordered. Remember your training. We hold this line together. The Lorani moved to their positions with new determination. They had watched the humans fight and had begun to believe they could fight too. Across the colony, humans and Lorani prepared for the coming assault. In orbit, the human fleet moved to intercept Vex warships. Admiral Russell sent a message to all Earth vessels. Show them what Deathworlders can do. The second wave of battle began, more intense than the first. Vex boarding parties breached the UES Valiant, expecting to overwhelm the crew. Instead, they encountered humans fighting with a ferocity that matched their own. Lieutenant Emma Ward led the defense of the engine room, her team using the ship's narrow corridors to negate the Vex size advantage the aliens had never encountered. Close-quarters combat tactics like those the humans employed. They expected us to retreat, Emma told her team as they regrouped after repelling the first wave of boarders. They don't understand that humans never give up easily. On the planet's surface, the Vex discovered something even more surprising. Lorani fighting alongside humans, showing a courage they had never displayed before. As night fell in the colony. World, the Vex withdrew again, leaving their dead behind. They had expected an easy victory over the humans. Instead, they had found an enemy unlike any they had faced before. In his command ship, War Leader Kraz faced an uncomfortable truth. These humans were indeed Deathworlders like the Vex. But unlike the Vex, they used their strength to protect others rather than conquer them. For the first time in his life, Kraz felt something new doubt about the Vex's place in the galaxy. 2 weeks after the initial human arrival, the situation had evolved into a tense standoff. The Vex had gathered a massive fleet at the edge of the system, over 50 warships, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The human forces had been reinforced as well. Earth had sent 3 additional ships, including the newly completed dreadnought Hughes Guardian. Commander Daniel Howard of the Special Operations Unit studied the holographic display of the Vex command ship. He had been tasked with a mission that many thought impossible: infiltrate the enemy vessel and gather intelligence on Vex weaknesses. Their security will be focused on their engines and weapon systems, Daniel explained to his team of 6. We'll enter through this maintenance hatch near their sensor array. Lieutenant Carly Barnes, the team's technical expert, pointed to a section of the ship. Their life support systems are clustered here. If we can access their environmental controls, we might find something useful. Good thinking, Daniel agreed. The Vex evolved on a death world. They may require specific atmospheric conditions to function at peak efficiency. The team prepared their specialized stealth craft. It was small, with minimal weapons, but advanced cloaking technology. As they boarded, Admiral Russell approached Daniel. "This mission is high risk, Commander," the Admiral said. "But what you discover could turn this conflict in our favor." "We'll get it done, sir," Daniel promised. "One way or another, we'll find their weakness." Hours later, the stealth craft slipped past the Vex fleet's outer perimeter. They approached the massive command ship, its hull bristling with weapons. The craft's cloaking system strained against the enemy's scanning technology, but held. 60 seconds to contact, Carly announced as she guided the craft toward their entry point. Team moved in silence, each focused on their role. They docked with barely a sound, attaching their craft to the Vex ship's hull like a remora on a shark. Using specialized cutting tools, they created an opening into a rarely used maintenance tunnel. "Air is breathable, but high in sulfur compounds," reported Sergeant Mike Lewis, checking his scanner. "Gravity is about 1.3 times Earth normal. Just like their home world," Daniel noted. "Remember your training. In this gravity, conserve your energy and watch your footing." The team moved through the alien ship like shadows. The interior was hot and humid, with strange organic components integrated into the metal structure. They encountered few Vex, as most were stationed at battle positions. They reached a central computer hub where Carly got to work. Her fingers flew over her portable interface device as she broke through the alien security systems. "Their technology is advanced, but their security protocols are predictable," she whispered. "They don't expect anyone to be able to infiltrate their ships." "Arrogance," Daniel commented. "A weakness we can exploit." Carly downloaded vast amounts of data while the rest of the team stood guard. Suddenly, her eyes widened. "Commander, you need to see this." The screen displayed information about the Vex's evolutionary history. Unlike most spacefaring species, they had achieved technological advancement without shedding their predatory nature. They saw the galaxy as a hunting ground and other species as prey. "Look at this." Carly pointed to a section about environmental requirements. "The Vex can only function at peak capacity in specific conditions: high gravity, high temperature, and an atmosphere rich in sulfur. Outside these parameters, their reaction time and strength decreased significantly. Daniel smiled. So in standard Earth conditions or Lorani environments, they're operating at about 70% capacity. Carly finished, and there's more. They're extremely sensitive to certain sound frequencies that humans can barely hear. Download everything, Daniel ordered. This is exactly what we needed. Their mission complete, the team began their withdrawal. But as they approached their extraction point, they encountered a patrol of Vex warriors. In the confined space, there was nowhere to hide. Intruders, roared the lead Vex, raising its weapon. Daniel didn't hesitate. Plan B, go loud and go fast. The team engaged the Vex patrol in close combat. The aliens were larger and naturally armored, but the humans moved with unexpected speed and precision. Years of training in Earth's special forces had prepared them for fighting in various gravities and environments. They're stronger than us, Daniel called to his team as he ducked under a Vex warrior's swing. But we're faster and smarter. Use that. The battle was brief but intense. The humans suffered injuries, but managed to overcome the patrol through coordinated tactics. They reached their craft and disengaged from the Vex ship, just as alarms began to sound throughout the enemy vessel. Cloak is damaged, Carly reported as they pulled away. We need to move fast. The small craft raced back toward the human fleet, pursued by Vex interceptors. Daniel sent an emergency signal to the fleet. Mission accomplished, but we need immediate extraction. Coming in hot. Captain Grace Sullivan of the cruiser UE's Indomitable received their signal. Her ship was the closest to their position, but Vex vessels stood between them and the returning team. Helm, set course to intercept, she ordered. We're going to attempt a slingshot maneuver around the gas giant. Her navigation officer looked alarmed. Captain, the gravitational forces at that speed will be intense, but we can handle it, Grace finished. Our ship was built on Earth. She's tougher than she looks. The Indomitable accelerated toward the massive gas giant that dominated that section of the system. The maneuver Grace proposed was theoretically possible, but extremely dangerous, using the planet's gravity to whip the ship around at tremendous speed, cutting their interception time in half. Vex tactical computers calculated the human ship's course and determined it to be suicidal. Their vessels held position, expecting the Indomitable to change course or be torn apart by gravitational forces. But Grace Sullivan had grown up sailing on Earth's stormy oceans. She understood how to ride powerful forces rather than fight them. Under her command, the Indomitable curved around the gas giant, its structural integrity strained but holding. The cruiser emerged from the maneuver at an angle the Vex hadn't predicted, directly in position to recover the stealth craft. Their surprise gave the humans the seconds they needed. Bring them in, Grace ordered as the small craft limped into the landing bay. Daniel's team arrived on the bridge moments later, battered but triumphant. We have what we need, he told Captain Sullivan, transferring the data from Carly's device. The information spread quickly through the human fleet. Admiral Russell immediately began developing new tactics based on the Vex vulnerabilities. The environmental data was sent to engineering teams who modified sonic weapons to target the frequencies the Vex found painful. Shield configurations were adjusted to emit conditions that would weaken the enemy forces. As the humans prepared their counteroffensive, the Vex fleet finally moved to attack. War leader Kraz was determined to crush these troublesome humans once and for all. What he didn't know was that the humans were now ready for him, armed with knowledge of exactly how to hurt his forces, where they were most vulnerable. The final battle began at dawn. The massive Vex fleet advanced toward the Lorani world, weapons charged and ready. War leader Kraz stood on his command deck, mandibles clicking with anticipation. He had gathered 70 warships, the largest force ever assembled for a single conquest. The humans have courage, he told his officers, but they lack numbers. Today we will crush them and continue our rightful dominance of the stars. On the UE's defender, Admiral Frank Russell watched the approaching enemy with calm determination. The past 3 days had been spent implementing the new strategies based on Commander Howard's intelligence. Every ship in the human fleet had been modified to exploit the Vex weaknesses. All ships report ready, Admiral, Lieutenant Zoe Phillips announced from her station. Russell nodded. Begin Operation Thunderclap. The human fleet moved into an unusual formation. Instead of meeting the Vex head-on as expected, they split into smaller groups, each targeting specific sections of the enemy fleet. Before the Vex could adjust their tactics, the human ships activated their new weapon systems, specially tuned. Sonic emitters sent waves of painful frequencies toward the Vex vessels. The modified shields of the human ships began to release atmospheric compounds that interfered with Vex biological functions. Within minutes, the carefully coordinated Vex formations began to falter. On the Vex command ship, alarms blared as systems reported unexpected failures. War leader Kraz roared in frustration as his warriors began to show signs of disorientation. What is happening? He demanded that his science officer struggled to maintain composure. The humans have altered their weapons. They are targeting our biological weaknesses. Impossible. How could they know? Kraz slammed his clawed fist into a control panel. Across the battlefield, Captain Olivia Martinez directed the horizon in a series of quick strikes against Vex communication nodes. Her ship darted between larger vessels, disrupting the enemy's ability to coordinate their forces. They're beginning to break formation, she reported to Admiral Russell. The sonic weapons are working. On the planet below, the Lorani watched in amazement as the battle unfolded. For generations, they had lived in fear of the Vex, believing them invincible. Now they witnessed the mighty hunters becoming confused and disorganized. Elder Selith stood with Chief Engineer Samantha Collins at the colony's command center. Your people have done the impossible, he said, his bioluminescent patterns bright with hope. Sam smiled. Nothing's impossible, just improbable until someone figures out how to do it. The battle raged for hours. The Vex, despite their confusion, fought fiercely. Several human ships suffered heavy damage. The UE Swift was lost with all hands when 3 Vex cruisers focused their fire on its engines, but the tide had turned decisively. The Vex, unable to function at full capacity and struggling to coordinate their actions, began to lose ship after ship. Their once fearsome fleet was being systematically dismantled by a numerically inferior force. War leader Kraz knew defeat when he saw it. With rage burning in his 4 eyes, he gave the order to retreat. The remaining Vex ships disengaged, limping away from the battlefield they had entered with such confidence. As the Vex fleet withdrew from the system, celebrations erupted across the human ships and on the Lorani colony. The impossible had happened. The hunters of the galaxy had been hunted. 6 months passed. The news of the Vex defeat spread across the galaxy. Other species that had suffered under Vex aggression began to reach out to the humans and Lorani. A delegation from Earth arrived to establish more formal relations with these new civilizations. Dr. Nicole Ward led the diplomatic team. She had spent her career studying theoretical alien cultures, and now she found herself helping to shape humanity's place among the stars. We come seeking friendship and cooperation, she told the assembled representatives of 12 different species. At the newly established Galactic Concord, Earth wishes to be a good neighbor. The Lorani ambassador Xylith spoke next. Humanity answered our call when no one else would. They faced the Vex without fear and showed them that strength can be used to protect, not just to conquer. To everyone's surprise, a Vex representative was present as well. Not war leader Kraz, but a different Vex named Mex, who served as a diplomat for their collective. The Vex have long believed that only the strong deserve to rule the stars, Mex stated, his voice translated for all to hear. We judge strength by the ability to dominate. The humans have shown us a different kind of strength, the strength to defend others at risk to themselves. The diplomatic talks led to a peace treaty. The Vex agreed to end their expansionist campaigns in exchange for access to certain trade, routes, and resources. It wasn't perfect, but it was a beginning. On the final day of the conference, a young Lorani child approached Admiral Russell, who had come to represent Earth's military. The child's luminous patterns showed curiosity. "Why did you help us?" the child asked. "You didn't know us." "We had nothing you needed." Russell knelt down to be at eye level with the small alien. "Because that's what humans do. We hear a call for help, and we answer." Later that evening, Nicole watched the sunset over the alien ocean with Xylith at her side. The sky turned colors she had never seen on earth-deep purples and shimmering golds that reflected off the water. "Your world is beautiful," she told the Lorani ambassador. "As is yours, in its own way," Xylith replied. "We have learned much from humans. You evolved on a world that should have crushed you, yet you developed compassion alongside strength." Nicole smiled. "Perhaps that's because of our harsh world, not despite it. When survival is difficult, you learn the value of helping each other." Back on Earth, children in schools were learning about the new alien civilizations. Scientists studied the technologies shared by their new allies. Artists created works inspired by the different cultures now known to humanity. And across the galaxy, when smaller civilizations found themselves in danger, they sent their distress calls in a new direction toward the system of a yellow star, where the Deathworlders lived. The humans who had proven that even those born on the harshest worlds could choose to be protectors rather than predators. The call had been answered once. Now the galaxy knew it would be answered again.